Is royal fashion dated and out of style? Or is it just the epitome of timeless elegance? Because we have an interesting comparison to make today between Catherine, the Princess of Wales, Queen Mary, Queen Maxima, Queen Letizia, and the recent antics of Jennifer Lopez, also known as J.Lo. Because as I was looking and seeing the commentary on J.Lo's very, very sexy and raunchy concert appearances, I couldn't help but think there's a reason why, especially after you get to certain ages, you want to dress like royal women and not like Jennifer Lopez. Because sure, you can sell sex for a long time, but if you want to be taken seriously, you have to dress seriously too. And I think royal ladies provide a fantastic example. So, this video today is going to be about advocating for the timelessness of royal fashion and comparing it to what others have done, you could say, and how they'll probably complain later that nobody takes them seriously. So, we are going to get into all of this today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal Fashion News before, my name is Brittany, and this is a channel for all those who have a passion for royal fashion. So, if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, I would absolutely love to have you back. And because this just looks like a black blob behind me, I have a little unboxing to do. I recently got a Strathberry bag from their sale, and I just thought it would be fun to open it in front of everyone. So we get a little bit of unboxing in addition to, let's say, a more philosophical discussion, because I had even a hard time trying to figure out what is the hook even for the intro of this video. Because if you don't know quite what I'm talking about, maybe it's a little abstract, but I really hope some people take something from it. But if you just want royal fashion, we do have a little bit. This is a favorite brand of royals. We have Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, the Princess of Wales, and Meghan Markle as well have all utilized Strathberry bags, although Meghan stopped doing that once she left the UK, and Strathberry probably wouldn't pay her to promote their wares. Sorry, that's a little joke. But let's get into it. So I wanted this bag for a while, and the color looks super awesome to me. So I think I want to say Catherine has worn this bag, but she might not have. But Meghan wore a larger version of this, and maybe Sophie has as well. So Strathberry is a Scottish brand. And they kind of have an interesting design element to their pieces. So we have our little care guide here. And then the bag itself. Ooh, guys, this has handles. Oh, you can use this for something else. That's smart. Oh, that's so smart. Okay, bravo, Strathberry, for creating a fantastic dust bag. Ooh. So here's the bag right there in the dust bag. And oh, I can see it and it looks great. The color is known as sienna, which has a bit of a pink tone to it, maybe coming up a little reddish, but here we go. Oh my gosh. Guys, the leather here is absolutely top notch. Oh my goodness. Ooh. And I love this little bit. I like bags that have a top handle and a strap. So we have a chain here and a leather strap on top. So, oh, I can't wait. So I did unbox this today because I wanted to wear it. And I was like, well, we should unbox it because I was really inspired for this fashion purchase. So we have this top handle crossbody. It'll fit my big phone. So this is a nice little day bag, I would say, if you just need to go out and about real quick. And I can't wait to test it out. I am actually maybe testing this out tomorrow, and another very special piece as well for this channel, because there was something in the Nordstrom anniversary sale that I had to try out for myself. But I want to give it a good testing, and that'll be tomorrow. So I'll let you know how this does as well. But so excited for this. Is this not too cute? And honestly, the leather is amazing. I don't know. You can't tell, obviously, but it's so incredibly soft here. So soft. Oh my goodness. Okay. And in case you want to look inside, not super exciting inside, but I feel like this is amazing. So yay to Strathberry. Didn't sponsor this video at all, by the way. Just thought it would be fun to unbox it on camera. So, I will link similar options down below, and there was an extra 10% off sale. I don't know if it's still going on, but if it is, I will definitely link it down below. Okay, so back to this topic. And I will say this is kind of, again, philosophical. Some people will consider it maybe a bit controversial, but there's a reason why I love royal fashion and why I'm a passionate advocate of it. And that's because the women always look elegant, they look classy, they look timeless. And any event they go to, they are the most well dressed, well presented person there 99% out of the time. Even Catherine at the James Bond premiere, the Hollywood people are like, oh, she looks so gorgeous and elegant. And royals don't have to resort to thigh high slits, plunging necklines, or any other shows of skin in order to grab attention. They are simply there, obviously doing their jobs, looking really, really good, but doing it in a way that people take them seriously. People do. Now, obviously, it depends on the engagement, it depends on so many different things. But when you look at royal women, because of how they presented themselves, you have a greater appreciation for them, and they're not trading off sex. Yes, I understand sex does sell, but there is a limit to that. It's actually been very interesting because maybe it was fortuitous today because I decided to pick up on watching the Jane Mansfield documentary by Mariska Hargitay, her daughter. And it's been a sweet sort of journey so far because Mariska, her mom died quite young. And when Mariska was young, and so she's like, she doesn't know that much about her mom. So she has to kind of look through and find her both within her public persona in addition to her private one as well. And one of the things James Mansfield found is that when she initially broke onto the scene, she was able to sell herself in many ways with this very hypersexualized image. And that went so far. And then Jane at some point was like, I want you to take me seriously. But it was really, really hard for people to start taking her seriously. There was even an interview where she was showing off her violin skills or something like that. And you almost felt like the presenter guy was sort of making fun of her in a way. Even though she was actually a talented musician, she had sold herself in such a way at that point, it's hard to turn the ship. It's hard for people to take you seriously when all you're selling is sex. It just is. And what's sort of interesting is that you could say now there's a huge campaign going on with American Eagle and Sydney Sweeney. And it's a very hypersexualized campaign trading off Sydney's assets. And I can't help but wonder if in 20 to 30 years she'll complain about that campaign, going, oh, nobody takes me seriously now because I wish they had recognized how much I love jeans. This is an exaggeration. Love jeans when I was doing that commercial way back in the day, because I always find that women, particularly in the entertainment industry, who sell sex for a long time, all of a sudden, or when they get older, are like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. People don't take me seriously. And it's like, yeah, people don't. And I feel like that's a lesson young women can learn, and one to take actually quite seriously. Because when you sell yourself in that light, it's very hard for people to take your intellect seriously, take your dreams and passions seriously. Yes, some people transform it into major successes. Look up a lot of the Playboy Playmates. Do you hear a lot about most of them? No. No, no, you don't. And I even find, because I did watch way back in the day, The Girls Next Door, which was a weird, like PG version of Playboy. It was very odd. Anyways, one of the things I listened to the podcast, and two of the women who were on that show complain actually quite a lot that nobody takes me seriously. Ah, they didn't give me the recognition I deserved. But it's what you did in order to get the platform that you had that undermined you in the very end. And when I see Jennifer Lopez gyrating on stage, and there's this one particular video where she's wearing these low hanging leather pants, she's got the bra on, and I'm like, you look great. Nobody's saying you don't look great. And there's more like she's basically doing, I think Megan Kelly called it soft core porn in one of her concerts as well. And it's like, I totally understand why that doesn't work and why Megan Kelly has an issue with it. And she's so incredibly right. But the other thing here is that when you compare this to royal women have this longevity in part not only because of their roles, but because they're not simply selling their physical attributes. They're selling their presence, their intelligence. They're selling their country. They're selling their country's fashion. That's why people continue to look to them. Think of Queen Elizabeth II. She was definitely very much like she was maybe a little bit more pushed the boundaries when she was younger, but she very much adopted the role as queen. And she adopted a very conservative fashion sense. And yes, some people would call it old fashioned, uninspired. And there was a period where it wasn't particularly good. But what Her Majesty did is she found a great dresser in Angela Kelly, and she created a uniform for herself of coat dresses and hats. And people loved her for it because she was never selling her body, really. Because that's what I feel like Hollywood people do sometimes, is that they're not selling their skill, they're selling their body instead. And then at some point, what happens is as you get older, you don't have as much there to work with, to be quite frank. And the danger is, and what Queen Elizabeth has never had to deal with, nor most of the other royal ladies, is that at some point, because you only sold yourself, you never sold your actual skill set, you only sold your body instead, at some point, that's all you have left, and that's all you have to trade. And it looks very desperate. There is no reason why a woman in her 50s needs to gyrate on stage and tell us all about her sexual habits. What that tells me about Jennifer Lopez, in my personal opinion, is that she doesn't even have a very high opinion of herself. And she's so desperate for fame and attention that she's not letting her great dancing skills, her great singing skills, or acting skills speak for her. She's letting her body and sex do it instead. And royal women don't have to resort to that. And I would sort of broadly, and I realize again, some people may hate this video, offer some bits of encouragement and demonstrate how royal women get it so right. So you in your private life, professional life, public life, whatever, can still continue to not only be fashionable, but also timeless, elegant, refined, in order that no matter where you go or what you do, people take you seriously. And the step number one, sort of, is to find your fit or find your style, whatever it happens to be. Whether you look better in suits, whether you look better in dresses, skirts and blouses, jeans and a t shirt, figure out something that works for you and your body type. Don't dress against your body type, dress with it. That's why so many of my looks are fit and flare A-line dresses, because that is what slimming on me looks best on me. And it took me a while to get there. And it may take you a little while to get there. But if you want to have some longevity in your style, eternalness in your style in some ways, find the style that works for you. Don't try to mimic the fashionistas. Most of the time, those looks don't look good on us mere mortals, anyways. Find a classic style that always works for you that you can lean on time and time again, because you will thank yourself and you will have a closet full of amazing looks that you can choose from every day of the week. The second lesson you could say from royal women is to always dress well. So I realize that's sort of broad, but I was kind of having a couple ideas come to mind, and there's really two here that are key. Number one is make sure that your outfit has no wrinkles or is less wrinkly or just not sloppy. I feel like Megan is a great counterexample to that. She looks sloppy a lot. And it's because the clothes are too big and baggy. They don't really work for her, which goes back to rule number one. They are sort of shapeless and tend to be very wrinkly. And of course, clothes wrinkle, you can't avoid that entirely, but try to pick things, especially for particular situations where you don't have to deal with something that sort of looks run down and maybe just very kind of messy. You want to avoid messiness. Like try to be less of that. And then the other part of that rule is to dress well, is to adopt Catherine the Princess of Wales's style, which is to be, even in jeans and a t-shirt, being the most put together of the people there. Catherine, no matter what she is wearing, always looks well put together. Her looks are always fitting of the occasion, fitting her personal style, and yet at the same time also being professional. And I think that's a tightrope to walk, but like I always see her, and every time, no matter if she's in shorts going boating because they've done some sail racing or whatever, or going to a James Bond premiere or going to a state dinner, she always looks well put together. And I'm like, how does she do it? I don't know, but that's something you should lean towards. And that goes again, kind of combines with the don't be too wrinkly if you don't have to be. Another example you can take from loyal ladies is probably to be about the best dressed person in the room. And that might seem a bit extreme, but that's what sets royals apart a lot of times in their circumstances is that they are the best dressed people there. And sometimes they're dressed beyond the actual specific event, just slightly. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean for a casual business dinner party that you come in a gala gown. That's not what I'm saying. But make sure you are dressed so well that you actually stand out in a good way because they're like, wow, she looks so well put together. Oh my goodness, or he. Look how great they look. And I think there's something to that. I was actually thinking of How I Met Your Mother, which is a show that I watched until the end, and then I hated the ending so much I couldn't watch the rest of it. But one of the characters, he wears a suit all the time. And it's a bit ridiculous, but he stood out because he was always in a suit. And that's a particular style reference that they decided for that character. But I think royal women kind of exemplify this as well, as they're usually the best dressed person in any room they're in. And it's not just because they have designer stuff, it's because they have put their outfits together well and they know their assignment, which is to be the presence of their country and to stand out. You don't want a royal who I feel like is, let's say, in the background in some ways, because that sort of defeats the purpose. Like a royal that sort of skirts the line sometimes where I'm like, ah, just do a little bit more. As Crown Princess Victoria, her fashion, I have a love hate relationship with. She can knock out gala looks, but some of her casual ensembles could use a lot of work. But you always want to, I would say, even us mere mortals try to be one of the better dressed people in the room. I've had a couple instances where people have actually referenced that. Like we had a whole group, and I want to say there was 15 people in a circle. We were playing a game, and the question was, who's the best dressed person here? And the whole point of the game is to follow the crowd. And everybody said Brittany, which is me, except for one person. And that's me. And I was like, that can't possibly be the question. And he's like, yeah, it is. I'm like, okay, fine. And so it's like it's weird because you feel embarrassed, but at the same time, I felt like, oh, I stood out in a good way because people saw the elevatedness of my fashion. And it wasn't that I went all out. I just had a dress on. And it looked, I guess, better than what other people were wearing. But that's part of my personal style too. And so I just own it. But I think there's something we can all adopt from that in some ways, which is that try to show off and be somebody who stands out in that really positive manner. The fourth rule is that at some point, and this is particularly referencing J.Lo, it's time to hang up certain things. It's time to hang up the low rise pants and the bra top when you're performing because you're in your 50s now with teenagers. Let's see, how old is Jennifer Lopez? I'm just curious now. She's 56. She's almost 60 years old. And she's walking around in that. She looks fabulous. But I always feel like when it comes to women, especially at some point, and this is true for men too, although men don't have quite a range of fashion as women do. But when you start to increase that, the age starts to tick up, the more you're trying to dress like a 20-year-old, the more desperate you look. There's a certain point, even if you have the best legs in the world, maybe pull down your skirt an inch or two, or get a skirt that's an inch or two lower. Not because you don't have great legs, but just because you're starting to look like you're trying too hard to be young rather than embracing the age you are now. It could be said, though, obviously, in the royal counter example, that sometimes the women dress way too old for their ages. I know people have said that of Catherine. But at the same time, Catherine can wear her look now 20 years from now, 30 years from now, because it's classic. Even if it's not fashion forward, it is still a classic look, one that can be worn again and again and again and again. It's not limited to one particular time period. And Catherine hasn't pulled out too many outfits from the early years of her marriage in some ways. And that's because her style has changed, I'm sure. And obviously, she's had 3 children now and those sorts of things, although she's still as thin as she was, I think, when she first started, pretty much. She's like, well, doesn't really particularly fit my style anymore. I've moved on from this particular look. And I think that's okay. She wasn't ever really all that risque in the first place. And I think that's part of the reason why we gravitate towards Catherine's style and why, even though it's evolved, you don't feel like she's trying too hard to be 20 years old anymore, because she's not. And there's nothing wrong with going through the aging process and embracing that. And there's nothing wrong with being sexy either. You just have to evolve in such a way, because I think of Helen Mirren. She is still sexy. A lot of people still consider her sexy, but is she flashing? Is she doing the J.Lo thing? No. She's just sexy in part because she's confident in herself. When I see women, especially once you get into 50s and 60s, really trying to do the sex pot thing, I mean, even Madonna, it's like when you're in that age bracket and you're still trying to look like you're 20, you look really, really desperate. As we get into these various, I think, decade groups, you change up what the definition of sexy is. It gets maybe a little bit more modest, but it looks classier because people still think Helen Mirren is classy. People still gravitate towards her. But I don't think too many people, except for kind of in the worst way, gravitate towards Jennifer Lopez. And again, that's what I love about royal fashion, is that there's a hint of sexiness to it. Like Catherine's James Bond gown was sexy, but was she flashing anything? No, but it was still sexy. Maybe a girl definition of sexy, but I feel like half the time us as girls were really dressing for each other. So I love Catherine's look, though. I felt like it was sexy. I mean, we've seen Crown Princess Victoria, there's a dress that she wore in, what was it? Like right before Catherine and William's wedding, I think. It was a bright red dress. There was something sexy about it because she stays in great shape. So she actually looks fantastic, but she, again, is not trying to compete with her daughter for attention. There's something just so crass about that, I think, when a grown woman who has a daughter who's in her 20s is all of a sudden trying to compete with her. Crown Princess Victoria doesn't have a daughter in her 20s, but you understand what I'm saying. I hope so, anyways. I'm kind of at least somewhat spitballing this here, to be quite honest. And the last rule here is, and this again is just something I've noticed from royals, and I said it briefly earlier, but I think it deserves its own rule. Don't always follow the trends. Don't always follow the trends, because the trends can be deceptive and the trends can be ridiculous. And you constantly find yourself changing out your wardrobe or chasing a look that just simply doesn't work for you. What I find with royal women is that they have a particular style and they stick to it. They sometimes take a little bit of a chance and risk. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But they're not constantly trying to be a fashionista. They're not constantly following what's going on in the latest in Paris Fashion Week and trying to emulate it all the time to diminishing returns. They're not, I think, fashionistas in that way. Royal women instead have a particular style. It's, again, I would say the Grace Kelly approach. Very A-line, generally tends to stick to simple, not really too many patterns, just timeless fashion. And because of that, they tend to look endlessly elegant. And that is something I always want to emulate. Like one of my favorite fashion movies ever, you could say, is Rear Window. Grace Kelly's wardrobe in that is absolutely insane. Even her nightgown is just glorious because it's so incredibly, it's like it gives you this fantasy feel in like the best way because it's just so beautiful. And it's like, do you even sleep in that? Like, how would you sleep in that? It's like a gown you could wear to dinner. It's so incredibly gorgeous. And I feel like if you want to have a great royally inspired fashion look, closet, what have you, look to something like Rear Window. Look to Catherine and Mary and Maxima, sometimes Victoria, or Princess Madeline of Sweden, or some of the Monaco royal ladies. Although I will argue that Caroline tends to, I thought her last look at the recent big event celebrating Prince Albert's 20 years on the throne, I was like, "Ooh, maybe not that look. Maybe not that look." But does she look fantastic? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like she embodies some of that grace that her mother Grace had. She has a grace to her and her fashion. She looks absolutely fantastic. And I want all of us to look great. This is actually even a shirt that Princess Catherine wore. This is the green version of her Bowden shirt. And so if you want that, I will link this as well. But I just want to encourage all of you, if you see J.Lo, acknowledge she looks fantastic. She looks better than probably most of us did in our 20s. But it's time to hang up the leather. It's time to hang up the barely there bra. And it's time to readjust what our definition of sexy is. Because I would much rather look like a royal than Jennifer Lopez in terms of my style. I don't need to sell my body and sex in order to get attention. I'd rather my brain speak for me instead. But I don't know about you. Let me know what you guys think of this little bit of an experimental video. Did I did my points work or not? I'd love to get your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy and embrace royal fashion because it is awesome. I will always be a passionate advocate for it, but let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall speak to you again very, very soon. Bye.